So as an old man, one of my favorite reassurances comes from country music singers Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, that old age and treachery always overcomes youth and skill. But after learning about the EvalYouth movement, I have to rethink that. You heard Tessie tell us in her opening speech that there are 20,000 folks, young people involved in the EvalYouth movement. You're going to hear now from Khalil Bitar, who's one of the leaders in that movement, to tell us how that's happening and what's going on in it. Khalil?
Good morning. My name is Khalil Bitar. I am an evaluator from Palestine, from a city called Hebron. If you happen to watch CNN and it's breaking news, there's a good chance you know a little bit about my city, perhaps. Unfortunately, many stories about the dire and protracted conflict. Currently, I am based in Germany doing my PhD, focusing on no other topic than evaluation in conflict-affected countries. Today, however, I would like to use the time to talk to you about an initiative I have been involved with for the past 4 years called EvalYouth, an Eval Partners global network that promotes young and emerging evaluators to become future leaders in the evaluation profession. Through my experience with EvalYouth and working closely with many young and emerging evaluators from really numerous countries and regions, I have been observing several important trends about young evaluators themselves and how they work, which I find as highly relevant to the conference theme and to the future of our field, really. I will highlight 3 trends today. But before I delve into that, I would like to highlight that I am not talking about all young people or even all young evaluators. Youth, including young and emerging evaluators, don't all belong to a homogeneous and analogous group. The trends are more of trends that I personally observed as a volunteer, vice chair, and now chair of the global network. And by the way, this is the definition of young and emerging evaluators, YEEs, which we hear a lot sometimes, for many of the young evaluators if they like to join. So with the trends, first trend, there are more young evaluators today than ever before. This might seem intuitive and obvious because, well, there are more young people today than ever before. But it also means that our field is finding its way to attracting young professionals. And youth, in turn, think it's still worthwhile to become evaluators. To me, this has always been interesting. And actually, I think it deserves more attention and research. There's no doubt that the field is growing quickly, as we saw in many of the presentations. But it's especially true when it comes to attracting young professionals. A prominent trend of supply we observe of young and emerging evaluators in sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East and North Africa, and South America. Young evaluators in these regions are also highly eager to build and enhance their evaluation skills. Over 50% of all applications received by EvalYouth for its flagship program, called the Global Mentoring Program, came from young and emerging evaluators and monitoring and evaluation professionals from the African continent alone. This trend could also be seen in the exponential growth of EvalYouth. After it was launched in Nepal in 2015 as part of the International Year of Evaluation, with only 23 young and emerging evaluators. The network now includes over 500 volunteers and members from all over the world. And, so I said 500 because I'm an evaluator, I give you exact number. But the number, the EA President, Tessie, when wonderfully supported and introduced EvalYouth, she mentioned that 20,000. 20,000 are the larger community of young evaluators who are highly engaged with the network through social media and other channels. And since 2015, we have 20 national chapters and 10 regional chapters of EvalYouth. Something was not in the plan of EvalYouth initially. and actually was complete initiative by young and evaluators themselves who started these chapters in different countries. And you see some examples of this. So we can move to the second trend. Young evaluators across the globe are cooperating in unprecedented ways. For example, several important initiatives actually are led by young evaluators to enhance the implementation of the SDGs in their countries and their voluntary national reviews. Such initiatives are calling for stronger youth participation, yes, but also the consideration of social justice and environmental sustainability issues. What is very important about these initiatives is that young evaluators are coordinating them not in silos, but in multiple countries at the same time. They're working together, perhaps for the first time in this scale. Also important is that young evaluators, when working on these issues, are not only considering youth issues. It's not youth issues. It's their community and other people as well, all around all sectors of the society. So, but there is a youth element, but this element is more of a cross-cutting, let's say, element that is relevant to all SDGs and all issues. That's how more young evaluators think about it. For the third trend, young evaluators are not shying away from putting their activist hat along with their evaluator hat. Those days are gone. Many evaluators I work with tend to be less drawn to the idea of being completely neutral and impartial. For example, many young evaluators in Palestine are striving to give voice to the unheard segment of the society that are unheard because of the conflict or because of the government neglect or severely affected areas. Many interventions don't reach, like Gaza Strip and other places. In the MENA region, many young evaluators are working on issues related to the democratic transition and Arab Spring Revolution that led by youth, and so different levels of success throughout the region. And Europe, a lot of evaluators, young evaluators, are working on issues related to environmental awareness and response to the environmental crisis. And here in the US, I see that many young evaluators are working on gender equality, racial equity and integration, and social justice issues in general. Young evaluators, or actually youth, let's say, around the world are leading, sparking, and highly being active in multiple socio-political grassroots movements that are advocating for enhanced social justice, equality, environmental sustainability, peace, many issues to remember, and several other right-based and forward-looking critical issues. Young evaluators carry and act upon these very principles and values. And they are often part of these movements, by the way. When they are not part of it in the traditional sense, they engage with it highly through social media and other channels, which these evaluators and these social movements are very, very good at using and utilizing. Young evaluators are also building stronger alliances with other social equity, social justice and equity-focused organizations, groups, and networks. For example, EvalYouth has established and sustained a strong connection with Eval Gender Plus, Eval Indigenous, as well as Eval SDGs, the Global Parliamentarian Forum, and any network that we really can get our hands on. In carrying this work, young evaluators are not methodologically dogmatic. More often than not, they tend to embrace mixed methods, contextually responsive approaches, and understand that rigor is not the property of technical method, but rather of evaluative thinking. Thank you. Thank you so much. With more talented youth, eager to become evaluators and working on that to build their skills and knowledge. Their interconnectedness in incredibly rich and complex pattern, whether individually or groups, and their willingness, courage, and hard work to work on issues related to their communities, to the world overall, I think, in my view, the future of evaluation is auspicious. Finally, really the instrumental support EvalYouth and young and emerging evaluators have been receiving from incredible evaluation leaders across the globe has made what was presented and talking about made possible. Without such support, perhaps much of these efforts would not have been possible. I hope this approach will be embraced and nourished and followed by many more evaluators everywhere that can support young and emerging evaluators. Indeed, we notice that wherever young and evaluators flourish, there is a champion or more than one champion that advocate for them, that support them. And support does not always mean agreeing with them. Sometimes challenging them critically and engaging with them critically, but at least giving them their voice to be heard. And a seat on the table won't hurt. EvalYouth, with such a great energy on the young evaluators' part, and I'm talking about hundreds and thousands of hard work and hours of volunteering from volunteers everywhere, and support and dedication by some of the busiest people in the field, but who are always there to support young and emerging evaluators. Perhaps I would not be speaking to you now if there was no strong leaders like this believe in EvalYouth and the message of EvalYouth. And this great progress has been done, but there's also a lot to be done by all of us as individuals, groups, networks, to better invest in the future of our field. And actually, really, in my view as an evaluator, the future of our world overall. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Future's looking pretty good.